Hello, welcome to the Self-Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Unit 21, Civil Society and Democracy. And our topic is the relationship between civil society and democracy. It is emphasized here that in certain conditions, civil society can contribute to the democratization of authoritarian regimes and can help to sustain a democratic system of governance once it is established. For example, if the Eastern European countries, South Africa, Siberia, Philippines, and recently in Georgia, citizens have used civil society organizations to wage struggle for political independence by learning about democracy and by mobilizing millions of their fellow citizens against repressive regimes. In democratic setup, civil society organizations provide basis for citizens to pursue common interest in political, social or spiritual domain. Here they participate freely, collectively and peacefully. By their involvement in civil society, citizens learn about fundamental democratic values of participation and collective action. They further disseminate these values within their communities. Civil society movements that represent citizen interest can considerably influence both government policy and social attitudes. Independent activities of the civil society can pose a counterweight to state power. To sustain his viewpoint in a systematic manner, he discusses three central aspects of democracy: aid, electoral assistance, institutional reform, and civil society assistance. He does this by elaborating on 4 case studies of countries on the receiving end of various types of US democracy assistance: Guatemala, Nepal, Zambia, and Romania. Democracy aid in Cartother's view is the byproduct of democratization, not the vice versa. The political space created by democratizing regimes has made it possible for international assistance to pursue democracy promotion in these countries. In his conclusive observation, he remarks that despite variations in local context, US democracy promotion activities follow a one-size-fits-all democratic template, which is not a healthy promotion scheme. This template of aiding democracy, he propounds, has developed in the course of practice rather than by conscious application of academic theories. The strengthening of civil society in different parts of the world is frequently offered as the answer to the questions pervasive in Washington: how can the Arab world democratize? And what should the United States do to help democracy there? Though we cannot conquer US interferences in the internal affair of any other country, yet there is strong consensus among scholars that civil society is uppermost to the incarnation of democracy. John Keane expresses this view when he notes that Where there is no civil society, there cannot be citizens with capabilities to choose their identities, entitlements, and duties within a political legal framework. Now, let us move to the next point: functions of civil society in a democratic order. Throwing light about the functions of a civil society in promoting democratic polity, Larry Diamond, in his article Rethinking Civil Society, says civil society plays a significant role in building and consolidating democracy. He opines the democratic civil society, the more likely it is that democracy will emerge and endure. In Diamond's view, civil society performs following important functions: to limit state power by checking its political abuses and violations of the law and subjecting them to public scrutiny. Diamond maintains a vibrant civil society is probably more essential for consolidating and maintaining democracy than initiating it. To empower citizens by increasing the political efficacy and skill of the democratic citizens and promoting an appreciation of the obligations as well as rights of democratic citizenship. To inculcate and promote an arena for the development of democratic attributes amongst the citizens, such as tolerance, moderation, a willingness to compromise, and respect for opposing viewpoints. According to Diamond, this is an important function as it allows traditionally excluded groups such as women and racial or ethnic minorities access to power that has been denied them in the upper echelon of formal politics. To provide avenues for political parties and other organizations, allowing them to articulate, aggregate, and represent their interests. This enhances the quality of democracy as it generates opportunities for participation and influence at all levels of governance, not the least the local government. To function as a recruiting, informational, and leadership generating agency, especially in economically developed societies, where economic reform is sometimes necessary but often difficult to bring about if it is threatens vested economic interests. The massive economic collapse in Indonesia unleashed mass discontent and made President Suharto suddenly vulnerable. This transformed the environment to allow civil society groups and opposition parties to mobilize citizens in an unprecedented fashion. A well-founded civil society could act as a shock observing institution where wide range of interests that may cross-cut and mitigate the principal polarities of political conflict. To generate public and political support for successful economic and political reforms, which require the support of coalitions in society and the legislature. A well-rooted civil society also helps in identifying and train new political leaders. As such, it can play a crucial role in revitalizing the narrow and stagnant party-dominated leadership recruitment patterns. Election monitoring. Many non-partisan organizations engage in election monitoring at home and abroad. Such efforts, say Diamond, have been critical in detecting fraud, enhancing voter confidence, affirming the legitimacy of the result, or demonstrating an opposition victory despite government fraud. The Philippines in the mid-1980s and the Panama in 1989 are cited as examples. Strengthening citizens' attitude towards the state. Civil society enhances the accountability, responsiveness, inclusiveness, effectiveness, and hence legitimacy of the political system. In so doing, it gives citizens respect for the state and positive involvement in it. Here, civil society is crucial to the development and maintenance of stable, quality, and sensitive democracy. In addition to this, other scholars have also come out with their viewpoint on the subject. Borrowing from Robert Dahl's classical work on democracy, Alfred Stephen in his work Problems of Democratic Transition and Consolidation states that among the basic requirements for democracy is the opportunity to formulate preferences, to signify preferences, and to have these preferences weighted adequately in the conduct of government. According to Robert Hull, for the proper functioning of the government, it should ensure the following institutional guarantees, which include freedom of association and expression, the right to vote, run for public office, free and fair elections, the right of political leaders to compete for support and votes, alternative sources of information, policy making institutions dependent on votes, other expressions of preference. Now let us wind up the session and take rest. Thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning Podcast.